Okay, so on the half-head model, we can see the nasal cavity and then the nasal conchae, the folds. Superior nasal conchae, and then middle nasal conchae, inferior nasal conchae. The spaces in between the nasal conchae are called the meatus. So, nasal cavity, then it goes down to the pharynx. The pharynx has three regions. This will be the nasopharynx by the nose, oropharynx by the mouth, and laryngopharynx going into the larynx. On this model you can also see the epiglottis. So the epiglottis is that flap. At rest it's open so our air can go into the trachea, but when we swallow the flap comes down. So when we swallow food it's going to go down the right tube, the esophagus. For the tonsils, the trachea has C-shaped cartilage rings. The back lining is called the trachealis muscle. So the trachea comes down, splits off into primary bronchi, primary bronchus. The next branch is secondary bronchus, and the smallest are tertiary bronchus. Primary, secondary, tertiary. The tertiary are always colored. Now what you can't see here is that the bronchioles come off of that. So we can see the primary, secondary, and tertiary bronchi, but the bronchioles are microscopic. Look at a picture. Bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, respiratory bronchiole. Look at the lungs themselves. The right lung has three lobes: upper lobe, middle lobe, smaller lower lobe, upper, middle, lower lobe. The left side only has two, upper and lower lobe, because the heart takes up some of the space. Upper lobe, lower lobe. The fissures separate the lobes. So if you see an arrow here, it's just a fissure. Fissure separates the lobes. The lobules, the surface of the lung has little scales on it. Those little scales on the surface are called lobules. If we open up the lungs, we get another look. The trachea comes down, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi. The opening in the lung where the primary bronchus comes in, that opening is called the hilum or hilus, either one. Opening in the lung where the bronchi and the pulmonary vessels come in. For the pulmonary vessels, don't forget they're switched. So blue is going to be artery, pulmonary artery. Red is going to be pulmonary vein. Last thing on this one would be the last piece of cartilage right before the trachea splits is called the carina. It's elevated, doesn't show it here, but it is. So the elevated piece of cartilage right where the trachea splits is called the carina. Right, so elevated piece of cartilage where the trachea splits is called the carina. You should also look at the type 1 and type 2 cells. So when we look really microscopically at the alveoli, lining each alveolus are cells. Type 1 are flat. Type 1 flat. Type 2 are round, big. Type 1 flat, type 2 round and big. For the glottis and vocal cords, look at a picture. Picture like this. The opening is the glottis. Opening is the glottis. The two folds that line the opening are called the vocal cords. So when air comes through the opening, when air comes through the glottis, the vocal cords shake, which produces sound, vocal cords. The vocal cords are held into place by vestibular folds. Okay, so glottis, vocal cords, vestibular folds.